The most numerous bird in the world is neither the sparrow nor the pigeon, but the tiny red-billed quail. This small bird, found in Africa south of the Sahara, gathers in massive flocks and literally devastates grain fields. For farmers, they are a true plague. Thousands of these birds can strip a harvest in just a few hours. The flocks of quailias are so enormous that they appear like a moving cloud. Scientists consider them the most abundant bird species on Earth. Ironically, in cities we tend to view pigeons as symbols of mass presence, but the record actually belongs to these small African weavers. The computer keyboard is something we touch every day, but we rarely think about how many germs are on it. Studies show that there are often more bacteria on the keys than on a toilet seat. Crumbs, dust and grease from our hands create the perfect environment for microbial life. Therefore, regular cleaning is not just a whim, but a matter of health. Sometimes, simply wiping the keyboard with disinfecting wipes or using a special vacuum for electronics is enough. So, as you type a message or play a game, remember, beneath your fingers lies an entire zoo. And perhaps computer hygiene is more important than we tend to think. In Kenya, there is a remarkable phenomenon known as moving lakes. These saline bodies of water can disappear for months and then reappear elsewhere when the rains come. It seems as if the Earth itself is shifting them on the map. In reality, this is linked to underground rivers and tectonic processes that direct the water to areas with voids. For the local people and animals, it poses a real challenge. Birds and herds are forced to follow the water as if it were a living entity. Imagine, a familiar lake has vanished and you search for it in a new location as if trying to catch up with an old friend. These wandering lakes demonstrate that nature operates by its own rules, and sometimes even the most familiar things, like water, can be unpredictable. Many people believe that lightning never strikes the same place twice, but that's a myth. In reality, for example, the Empire State Building in New York gets hit by lightning about 100 times a year. Tall buildings and structures seem to attract electricity, and their tops are specially equipped with lightning rods to prevent damage from strikes. So, lightning doesn't avoid old spots. In fact, it loves to return to them again and again. So if you find yourself near a skyscraper during a storm, know that it's one of the most common places for lightning to meet the ground. Nature once again proves that it doesn't adhere to pretty sayings. Giant whales are not just marine giants, but also true sanitizers of the climate. When a whale dies, its massive body sinks to the ocean floor, taking with it tons of carbon. This is roughly equivalent to the emissions produced by 100 cars over their lifetime. So whales help clean the atmosphere simply by living their lives. Scientists refer to them as carbon graveyards, but it doesn't sound sad at all. Each whale makes the world a cleaner place. It's amusing that the largest creature on the planet, weighing hundreds of tons, works in harmony with nature to ensure we breathe fresh air. Did you know that the largest island nation is Indonesia? This country consists of more than 17,000 islands, but the exact number is still unknown even to the government. Some islands disappear underwater, while others emerge from volcanoes. Indonesia is like a living puzzle that is constantly changing. It is the largest archipelago on the planet, and its geography contributes to its diversity, from tropical beaches to dense jungles and sprawling megacities. Here, literally every area is a separate world with its own culture, language, and traditions. Today, the computer mouse is a familiar accessory, lightweight and made of plastic. However, the first mouse, created in 1964 by engineer Douglas Engelbart, was made of wood. Inside, there were metal wheels that track movement across the table. The device looked strange and bulky, but it marked the beginning of a new era. It's hard to believe that from such a simple wooden box, modern touchpads and wireless gadgets emerged. This story serves as a reminder. Great technologies often arise from very humble beginnings, and sometimes all it takes is one wooden experiment to change the world. The paradox is that evidence often reinforces misconceptions. This phenomenon is called the backfire effect. When a person is presented with facts that contradict their beliefs, they don't change their mind. Instead, they cling to their viewpoint even more strongly. This aspect of psychology explains why debates about politics, religion, or contentious theories rarely end in persuasion. It turns out that truth doesn't always triumph over stubbornness. People tend to defend their views like a fortress, even when the walls of that fortress have begun to crumble under the weight of facts. Once in the Chesapeake Bay, oysters created real, living islands. In the 19th century, there were so many oysters in the Chesapeake Bay that they literally covered the surface of the water. Huge clusters of mollusks even obstructed ships from passing. But as usual, humans intervened. In just 100 years, they nearly wiped out these colossal stocks. By 2011, the oyster population had declined by 99.7%. From a rich natural carpet, only tiny fragments remained, a stark reminder that nature is not infinite. If you take a close look at Leonardo da Vinci's most famous painting, you'll notice something strange. The Mona Lisa has no eyebrows. Scholars debate whether the artist intended it that way or if the eyebrows have faded over time, but this small detail makes her smile even more enigmatic. We are used to reading emotions through facial expressions, and the absence of familiar features is disorienting. It's like having a conversation with someone, but part of their words suddenly disappears. Each viewer fills in the gaps in their own way. Perhaps that's why the smile of the Gioconda is so captivating. It communicates with us through the silence of missing details. It may seem surprising, but trousers, once considered a symbol of savagery, were ridiculed by the ancient Greeks, who mocked the Persians for wearing them, calling them bags. For the Greeks and Romans, the tunic was the attire of a civilized person. Trousers were seen as coarse and barbaric clothing until the Romans, expanding northward, encountered the Celts and adopted this practical wardrobe item. It's amusing to think that today it's hard to imagine our world without trousers, while they were once a sign of barbarism. The history of fashion knows how to take incredible turns. In the Chinese province of Yunnan, there is a place that resembles a set from a fantasy film more than reality. It is the stone forest, massive limestone pillars that are over 270 million years old. Wind and rain have sculpted the stone into whimsical shapes, resembling everything from castle towers to animal figures. Locals believe that spirits of nature inhabit this forest, surrounding it with legends. Tourists who find themselves here feel as if they have entered another world, where trees have been replaced by stone spires reaching into the sky. This place astonishes with its scale and mystery, reminding us that even rocks can be living pages of Earth's history. Today, it's hard to imagine a computer without microchips, but there was a time when memory was made quite differently. In the mid-20th century, data was stored in tiny magnetic rings. Each ring could remember a bit of information, while wires threaded through them managed the writing and reading processes. This was known as ferrite memory. It looked quite simple, like beads strung on a wire. Yet this technology was a breakthrough that allowed the first computers to operate faster and more reliably. Such memory was literally worth its weight in gold, and every cell counted. Today, it's difficult for us to believe that programs ran on rings, but that's how the era of the digital world began. Imagine a person who would have to eat 100 pizzas a day to survive. Tiny hummingbirds expend so much energy that they eat almost every 15 minutes. Their metabolism is so accelerated that if a human had the same, they would need to consume about 150,000 calories a day. That's roughly equivalent to eating 100 large pizzas daily. Without food, a hummingbird can die in just a few hours, so they live in a constant race for fuel. Their tiny hearts beat at an incredible rate, and their bodies operate at full capacity. These birds are like the sports cars of the natural world. It turns out that the rubber snake is not just a toy, but a real animal. In Canada, there is a harmless snake with the surprising name of rubber snake. It is completely safe for humans and is even used in therapy for people with phobias. Due to its calm demeanour and soft body, it is used for gradual acclimatisation to snakes. There have been no recorded cases of attacks on humans. Interestingly, the rubber snake that we usually think of as a prank toy actually exists in nature and helps people overcome their fears. Sometimes even the names of animals sound like a joke from nature. Ocean giants, sperm whales, are capable of communicating over thousands of kilometres. These ocean behemoths use powerful vibrations for communication that travel through water over vast distances. Scientists suggest that one sperm whale can call another located on the other side of the ocean. However, these same vibrations can be dangerous for humans. Getting too close can lead to paralysis or even death. Thus, sperm whales have their own underwater telephone network that operates far more efficiently than many of our technologies. Their language has not yet been fully deciphered, but it is already clear that it is one of the most complex systems in the animal kingdom. Long before the invention of the microscope, an ancient Roman scholar suspected the existence of microbes. Marcus Terentius Varro, in the 1st century BC, wrote that living near swamps is dangerous. There, he claimed, tiny invisible creatures linger that can enter the body through the mouth and nose and cause diseases. No one had microscopes back then, but Varro's keen observation was remarkable. His advice was long regarded as merely the warning of an elder, but centuries later it was confirmed. Malaria-carrying mosquitoes and numerous pathogenic microbes indeed thrived in swamps. Thus, Varro effectively made one of the earliest hypotheses about the existence of bacteria and viruses. Did you know that avocado can be deadly for animals? For humans, this fruit is beneficial. Vitamins, healthy fats, trendy toasts. But for birds and horses, avocado is toxic. A substance called persin in their bodies causes severe poisoning, sometimes with fatal outcomes. So what is a superfood for us is a poison for animals. This serves as a reminder that we can't measure everything by human standards. Even familiar foods can be dangerous if an organism isn't adapted to them. What is beneficial for one form of life can be harmful to another. Do you want to know where the term carbon footprint originated? Today, this term refers to an individual's contribution to atmospheric pollution, but few know that the idea was conceived by the oil and gas giant BP. The company hired advertising specialists to shift the focus from industrial emissions to the responsibility of ordinary people. Thus, the myth of personal guilt for the climate crisis was born. As a result, millions began to track how many bags they used or how many kilometres they travelled, while corporations continued to extract oil. It turns out that the very concept we perceive as environmental was originally a clever marketing ploy. In the dense jungles of Honduras, archaeologists used lasers to discover a lost ancient city that had been hidden by nature for centuries. Laser scanning allowed them to see through the tree canopies and uncover the ruins of buildings, plazas, and pyramids. Local legends referred to this place as the White City, or the City of the Gods, attributing mystical powers to it. Researchers found numerous artifacts that confirmed the existence of a rich culture in the area. It turned out that deep within the forest lay an entire civilization forgotten by humanity. This discovery revealed that the jungles could be not just a home for wildlife, but also a vast repository of human history. In Germany, in the town of Oberstdorf, a unique lift has been built that moves diagonally rather than vertically. It takes tourists up the mountainside at a 45-degree angle, combining features of both a funicular and a lift. Imagine stepping into the cabin, the doors closing, and instead of the usual vertical movement, you start gliding as if on a slope. For those who love unusual experiences, it's a true adventure. Moreover, the view from the cabin is breathtaking. Mountains, forests, and sky seem to unfold before your eyes. This mode of transport demonstrates that engineering can be both practical and fun. The story of Arthur Tudor and Catherine of Aragon illustrates that even a common language doesn't always prevent misunderstandings. When Arthur Tudor, the brother of the future Henry VIII, first met his fiancée, Catherine of Aragon, it turned out they couldn't communicate verbally. The issue was that their correspondence had been conducted in Latin, but their pronunciations were so different that they simply couldn't understand each other. It's amusing that a language considered universal among the European nobility ultimately let the young couple down. Imagine beautiful, formal letters, but in reality, there were just gestures and bewildered looks. Galapagos marine iguanas can hold their breath for up to an hour. These unusual lizards live on the Galapagos Islands and feed on seaweed. To find food, they dive into the ocean and can stay underwater for up to 60 minutes. Their bodies are adapted so that blood is directed only to vital organs during this time, conserving oxygen. They expel excess salt through special glands in their noses, sneezing out salty droplets. On land, they bask in the sun, while in the sea they become true underwater divers. This is a unique example of reptiles adapting to oceanic life. At first glance, it's just a beautiful stone, but in reality, it's a true magician. Alexandrite, a mineral from the Ural Mountains, changes colour depending on the lighting. In daylight, it appears green or bluish green, while under artificial light, it transforms into pinkish red or purple. No wonder it's called the chameleon stone. This effect once seemed like magic, and such stones were valued more than gold. Alexandrite is still considered a symbol of change and duality. The same stone shows different faces. It serves as a reminder that life often shifts its colours depending on the light in which we view it. Scientists have noticed an intriguing habit. When leaving a cave, bats almost always turn left. Why? One theory suggests that this helps them avoid collisions in their large colony. Imagine an intersection without traffic lights, where thousands of cars decide to go only in one direction. It's the same for bats. This common rule of movement makes flying safer. What seems trivial to us is a matter of survival for them. In the dark, order is especially important, and nature has elegantly solved this issue. Left it is. Who would have thought that an albatross can fly for hours without flapping its wings? These seabirds are true masters of gliding. They skillfully utilize the air currents above the ocean, allowing them to soar for hours with minimal energy expenditure. Some albatrosses spend years at sea, rarely landing on land. They sleep on the water, feed on fish, and feel at home in the ocean. Imagine a whole life in the sky above the sea, where wings become sails. Albatrosses are a symbol of freedom, and their ability to fly almost effortlessly amazes even scientists. In 2017, Emma Murano from Italy passed away, the last person born in the 19th century. She lived to be 117 years old and witnessed a world changing faster than ever before. Imagine, in her childhood, there were no airplanes or televisions, and by the end of her life, people were using smartphones and the internet. She experienced 2 world wars, dozens of rulers, and an entire era. Emma's story serves as a reminder that each person carries a whole library of time within them, and with her passing, the last page of the 19th century was turned. Avocado nearly disappeared from the face of the earth, and survived only thanks to humans. Once, giant Pleistocene animals, mammoths, giant sloths, and woolly rhinoceroses ate avocado fruits whole and helped spread the seeds. But these giants went extinct, and the plant could have vanished with them. However, humans stepped in. Our ancestors began cultivating avocados and preserving their culture for thousands of years. Today, we see it as a trendy ingredient for smoothies and toast, but in reality, it serves as a living reminder that many species survived only because humans became their partners. Sometimes, large numbers seem empty and abstract, but here's an interesting example. 1 billion seconds is about 32 years. That's a span of time comparable to a whole human life from birth to maturity. Imagine a baby being born, taking its first steps, going to school, graduating from university. And all of this fits into 1 billion seconds. The word billion sounds like an unimaginably large amount, but in reality, it's just one segment of a human biography. This simple calculation helps us understand how valuable each day is. After all, time doesn't flow in billions, but in small pieces, and it all depends on how we choose to live them. It sounds crazy, but the playwright Aeschylus was killed by a turtle. The great ancient Greek tragedian met his end in the most absurd way. An eagle dropped a turtle on his head, mistaking his baldness for a rock suitable for breaking the shell. This incident has gone down in history as one of the strangest examples of irony of fate. Aeschylus, who wrote about the greatness of the gods and the destinies of heroes, became a victim of absurd chance himself. One could say that life played a tragicomedy on him, and now his name is associated not only with great plays, but also with an extraordinary death. The blue whale is not only the largest, but also the loudest inhabitant of the Earth. Its call reaches up to 188 decibels, louder than a departing airplane. These sounds can be heard up to 800 kilometers away underwater. The whale acts like a marine radio transmitter, communicating with other giants over vast distances. For us, it would be a deafening roar, but for them, it's a gentle song. Imagine, deep in the ocean, where it's dark and empty, a powerful bass suddenly resonates, heard by whales scattered across the sea. It's a true symphony of nature. You won't believe it, but a parrot swore at the funeral of a US president. Andrew Jackson, the 7th president of America, had a favorite parrot. His owner often cursed, and the bird quickly picked up the habit. When Jackson died, the parrot was brought to the funeral, but instead of a solemn silence, the guests heard a stream of profanity. The priest had to ask for it to be removed to avoid embarrassing the attendees. It created a strange scene, a president known for his strong character and his feathered friend, who seemed to continue his speech even after death. The story shows that even parrots can leave a vivid legacy. Imagine that life on Earth could hit a reset button. There's a chilling hypothesis called Medea. It suggests that microbes can trigger mass extinction events. The idea is that microorganisms, which have dominated the planet for billions of years, can alter the environment so drastically that complex life simply ceases to exist. It's as if Earth returns to a primordial state. This concept is controversial yet eerie. Nature sometimes seems to reset its experiments, as if pressing a restart button. We tend to view life as invincible, but this theory reminds us that its greatest enemy might be itself. In psychology, there is an intriguing phenomenon known as the wonderful women effect. Research has shown that both men and women tend to attribute more positive qualities to women. The term wonderful women effect emerged in the 1990s when sociologists noticed that women received more flattering ratings in surveys than men. Interestingly, women themselves exhibited even greater bias than men. This doesn't mean that women are always better. Rather, society subconsciously idealizes them. Such an effect can even influence politics, careers or court decisions, as perception often outweighs facts. Some mushrooms have the amazing ability to glow in the dark. This process is called bioluminescence. At night, they emit a soft green light in the forest, creating a fairy tale atmosphere. Scientists believe this glow attracts insects that spread spores and help the mushrooms propagate. For humans, it appears as true magic, walking along a path and seeing the ground beneath your feet illuminated by mysterious lights. It's no wonder such mushrooms have inspired legends and tales. It serves as a reminder that even in the most ordinary grove, one can find wonder if they look closely at night. The Sahara is not just a sea of sand, but also a place where it can sing. Some dunes emit a low hum or even melodic sounds when the sand slips down their slopes. It's like an organ built right into the desert. The reason lies in the unique shape and size of the grains. They rub against each other and create vibrations. Imagine walking on a dune and suddenly the entire mound starts to resonate, as if alive. Travellers describe this sound as enchanting and mystical. It's no wonder that local tribes have legends about spirits singing in the sands. You've probably noticed that sometimes chocolate develops a white coating. Many people think it's spoiled, but no, it's just fat bloom, when cocoa butter rises to the surface due to temperature changes. The taste remains almost unchanged, and this chocolate is safe to eat. It's as if the bar has grayed from stress, looking odd on the outside, but still sweet on the inside. Interestingly, manufacturers sometimes explain this on the packaging so that people don't get scared. So if you see that white coating, don't throw it away. Just give it a second chance. In Pakistan, you can find a tree bound in real chains. Since 1898, there has been an arrested tree. The legend says that a British officer in a drunken state believed the tree was about to escape and ordered it to be chained. Absurd, of course, but the tree still stands with its iron shackles, now as a tourist attraction. People come to see this strange blend of nature and human imagination. It has become a true prisoner of conscience, only green and silent. Sometimes a word that sounds like a joke hides a very real pain in the muscles. Karipatura is a term sometimes used to refer to muscle soreness, that familiar feeling when your muscles start to ache after a workout. Scientifically, it's called delayed onset muscle soreness and occurs due to micro tears in the fibres. The body responds to the strain with inflammation to repair the tissues, which is why the muscles hurt more the next day. In everyday life, this is perceived as a punishment for exercising, but in reality, it's a sign that the body is adapting and becoming stronger. One could say that Karipatura is a receipt that the body gives you for the work done. 4,500 years ago in ancient Egypt, people were making dental prosthetics. Archaeologists have found jaws with artificial teeth secured by gold wire. Of course, it looked crude compared to modern technologies, but for its time, it was a medical marvel. Imagine how a priest or noble could smile again despite losing their teeth. The Egyptians always sought to defy time, from embalming bodies to the first attempts at prosthetics. In this, they were true pioneers. The International Space Station is not just a laboratory in orbit, it is the most expensive man-made object ever created. Its construction and operation have cost around $150 billion. For comparison, that's nearly 50 times the cost of the Eiffel Tower. The station has become a symbol of cooperation among different countries, with Americans, Russians, Japanese, and Europeans working together on board. Experiments are conducted there that cannot be performed on Earth. And while the amount may seem astronomical, the results are worth it. The ISS has opened the doors to life beyond our planet and represents a step toward future flights to other worlds. The carnivorous plant Venus flytrap can literally count. When an insect touches its sensitive hairs, the trap doesn't close immediately. The plant waits for a second touch to ensure it's not just a random raindrop or a speck of dust. If the touch is repeated, the lobes snap shut. Scientists have found that the fly trap keeps an internal count, and a specific number of stimuli is also needed for digestion. This means the plant has a primitive memory and a decision-making system. This makes it resemble a creature with a brain, even though it doesn't have one. Did you know that linear perspective in painting is a little trick of the eye? Renaissance artists began using a special technique to create space, making their paintings appear three-dimensional. The secret lies in how lines and shadows create the illusion of depth, even though the canvas remains flat. Sometimes it seems as if the gaze of a character in the painting literally follows you wherever you go. It's a play of light, shadow, and perspective. For the modern eye, this is familiar, but in the 14th century, such works looked like true magic, as if the artist had managed to turn a piece of fabric into a window to another world. In Antarctica, amidst icy landscapes, there is a place where a stream of crimson water flows from beneath a glacier. It has been dubbed the Blood Falls. In reality, the water is coloured due to a high iron content. It oxidizes and gives off that hue. However, it looks truly eerie. The pristine white ice and the red river resemble a scene from a horror movie. Scientists believe that beneath the ice lies an ancient lake with microorganisms that thrive in conditions with almost no oxygen. Thus, the blood falls are not only a spectacle, but also a clue about life in extreme conditions. Strangely, female tarantulas live much longer than males, up to 40 years. While males have a short lifespan after reaching maturity, females can survive for several decades. Moreover, they can go without food for up to 2 years if they have access to water. This resilience makes them some of the most unusual spiders. For many, tarantulas symbolize fear, but in reality, they are surprisingly patient and enduring creatures. Their lives are slow, almost stretched out in time. And if spiders know how to wait, female tarantulas are true champions of this art. Sloths are known for their slow lifestyle. They can hang on a tree for hours, moving at a leisurely pace, but they have an amazing skill. They can hold their breath for up to 40 minutes. In comparison, a human can typically hold their breath for 1 to 2 minutes. This ability helps sloths hide from predators and even swim across rivers while staying underwater. It seems incredible that such a slow creature possesses a superpower that few people know about. Their slowness, combined with respiratory endurance, makes them true survival masters, proving that their outward laziness is merely a facade hiding smart adaptations. Many people consider donkeys to be stubborn and dull animals, but in reality, they are much smarter and more emotional than they seem. Donkeys have excellent memories for friends, both humans and other animals, and can hold on to such memories for up to 20 years. They can sense their owner's mood, enjoy attention, feel jealous, and even become sad if ignored. In fact, donkeys have a rich inner world and value friendship just as much as dogs do. Therefore, it's not surprising that in countries where donkeys live alongside people, they are regarded not just as helpers, but almost as full-fledged family members. Those ears and gentle eyes hide much more than we tend to think. What a surprise! The lines on a basketball were not designed for aesthetics. These stripes help players grip the ball firmly and better control its movement. Try playing with an old smooth ball and you'll immediately notice the difference. It slips out of your hands and shots become inaccurate. The lines provide traction for the fingers and allow for quick changes in the ball's direction. For spectators, it's just a familiar design element, but for players, it's an unnoticed yet vital tool. It turns out that the outcome of an entire game can depend on a few stripes applied to the orange surface. The starfish eats in a rather unusual way. It turns its stomach inside out and wraps it around its prey, such as a shell. The food is digested externally, and then the stomach is pulled back in. It's like a portable container. Take it out, eat, and put it away. This method allows the starfish to handle prey that is difficult to swallow whole. It's amusing that behind the calm appearance of these sea creatures lies such a trick with their stomachs. They seem to know the secret to an unconventional approach to eating. The oldest joke was found on a clay tablet in Mesopotamia and dates back to around 1900 BC. And funny enough, it's a joke about gas. It says, "Never has it happened that a woman did not fart in front of her husband." Humour, it turns out, is timeless. 4,000 years have passed and the themes haven't changed. It's amusing that scholars, while deciphering the ancient text, discovered not only laws and myths, but also this little everyday joke. It seems people have always enjoyed joking about the simple and relatable. It's interesting to consider which invention has become the most widespread in history. It's the transistor. Today, they are produced in the trillions, with hundreds of millions of transistors for every person on Earth, embedded in computers, phones, and household appliances. Electronics wouldn't function without them. Transistors are so small that we often overlook them, yet they are the building blocks of the digital world. If humanity were imagined as a city, transistors would be the bricks that make up every building, unseen, tiny, but utterly indispensable. Today, we send each other emojis, hearts and pizza in chats, as if they've always existed. But the first emojis appeared in Japan in the late 90s. There were only 176 of them, and they looked very simple. A sun, a phone, a smiling face. Back then, it seemed trivial, but now emojis have turned into a real language understood all over the world. It's amusing that the idea came from a Japanese mobile company. They just wanted to make communication easier for their users. Now the entire world expresses emotions through these tiny images. You could say that without these little symbols, texting would be dull, like tea without sugar. Cows are not only a source of milk and delicious cheese, but they are also very social creatures. Scientists have observed that they have true best friends. They graze, rest, and even communicate with special sounds together. But the most surprising thing is that when these friends are separated, cows begin to experience stress. Their heart rates increase and they become restless and sad. It turns out that these large, peaceful animals feel separation almost the same way we do when we miss a close friend. So next time you see a cow in a meadow, consider that she might be standing next to a friend she has known for years, and that connection is just as important to her as it is to us. It may seem strange that banknotes vary in size across different countries. In fact, this is done intentionally to make life easier for people with visual impairments. In euros or pounds, each banknote differs in length and width, allowing individuals to identify them by touch. This is convenient not only for the visually impaired, but for everyone else as well, reducing the chance of confusing denominations. In the US, however, all banknotes are the same size, making it difficult for tourists to quickly distinguish between them. Additionally, varying sizes serve as a protection against counterfeiting, as it is challenging for fraudsters to replicate precise dimensions. Thus, banknotes hold not only monetary value, but also a hidden consideration for the people who handle them daily. Do you remember those annoying pop-up windows on the internet? The ones that took up half the screen and drove you crazy? It turns out their inventor publicly apologized for them later. In the 1990s, programmer Ethan Zuckerman came up with this method to separate ads from main content. At the time, it seemed like a good idea, but soon ads flooded the web, turning surfing into a nightmare. Years later, Zuckerman admitted that his invention caused more harm than good. This is a great example of how even good intentions can lead to unpleasant outcomes. And now, when we close yet another pop-up window, we can remember that its creator regrets it. Penguins are masters of swimming and diving, but they have another trick up their sleeves. They intentionally swallow small stones. Why? First, these pebbles help grind food in their stomachs, acting like a kind of grinding system. Second, the extra weight helps the birds dive deeper and stay underwater longer. This way, penguins become true underwater hunters. Imagine what seems like a silly act, grabbing a stone and swallowing it, turns out to be a clever adaptation for survival. It's another example of how nature equips animals with unexpected tools that help them excel in their environment. Once, Xerox was not a generic term but a proud brand name. Today, we say make a photocopy even when using a completely different machine. This is an example of so-called brand genericide, when a name becomes so popular that it turns into a generic term. The same has happened with escalator, Scotch tape, and even Frisbee. For the company, this is not a cause for celebration, but a serious loss. They lose legal protection, and the brand no longer belongs to its creators. The paradox is that excessive fame can turn into a disaster. You created a legend, and now it roams the world without you. Leonardo da Vinci observed a mathematical law in the most ordinary trees. In his notes, he remarked that if you sum the thickness of all the branches of a tree at a certain height, it equals the thickness of the trunk. This remarkable observation has been confirmed by modern research. Trees that follow this rule withstand strong winds and storms better. Leonardo made a discovery that ecologists and biologists still use today. It turns out that the artist and inventor recognized patterns in nature that science was only able to prove centuries later. A true example of how a genius was ahead of his time. Who would have thought that the most stolen book in the world is the Bible? Despite the sanctity of the text, it is the Bible that is most often the target of theft. In hotels, libraries and stores, it is stolen more frequently than any other book. Perhaps it's because it's always within reach, or because someone considers it public property. Ironically, the book that contains the commandment, "Thou shalt not steal," is most often the one that gets stolen. This serves as a reminder that even the most elevated ideas can clash with the everyday weaknesses of human nature. You've probably seen a flamingo or a duck standing on one leg. This isn't acrobatics, it's a way to conserve heat. Birds lose a lot of energy through their legs, and by tucking one leg under their feathers, they reduce heat loss by almost half. It would seem wild for us. Try standing like that for even 10 minutes. But flamingos can even sleep while balancing on one leg, like yogis in nature. Scientists call it unilateral resting, but essentially it's just a comfortable habit. Birds know the secret to comfort better than we do. In the tropical forests of the Amazon, there grows a palm that locals call the walking palm. Its roots are structured in such a way that the tree can slowly move several meters in search of light. Old roots die off while new ones grow on the other side, making the palm appear to take a step. Over the years, it can walk several meters, changing its location. Of course, it's not a stroll in the usual sense, but the sight is impressive, a tree that moves to survive. Scientists debate the speed and scale of this process, but the fact itself is astonishing. Nature once again proves that even trees can seek their place in the sun, literally on the move. It may seem that sports should unite people, but one day a football field became the spark for war. It sounds absurd, but in 1969, football matches were the last straw in the conflict between Honduras and El Salvador. The teams faced off on the field, but underlying their game were much sharper issues: overpopulation, land disputes, and social tension. The matches added fuel to the fire, leading to a war that would later be called the Football War. It lasted only a few days but claimed thousands of lives. The irony is that a sport meant for unity and joy unexpectedly became the trigger for a real tragedy. The phrase, "the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog," is known for containing every letter of the English alphabet. Such sentences are called pangrams. They are used to test fonts, practice typing, or evaluate keyboards. However, this is not a concept from the computer age. Calligraphers in ancient times also created pangrams to refine their handwriting. Imagine having to come up with a phrase that includes all the letters while still sounding meaningful. It's like a verbal puzzle that combines language and play. China has built the longest bridge in the world, the Danyang Kunshan Grand Viaduct. It stretches over 160 kilometres. This high-speed railway connects major cities. Imagine riding a train while an endless bridge stretches beneath you, disappearing into the horizon. The construction took just 4 years, with thousands of engineers and workers involved. This bridge stands as a symbol of humanity's ability to conquer even the vastest spaces, turning impossible distances into ordinary roads. We all dream of hitting the big jackpot, but the odds are so slim that even the trip to buy a ticket is more dangerous. Statistics show that the likelihood of dying on the way to the kiosk is higher than winning the grand prize. It's funny, but it's true. This doesn't mean buying a ticket is pointless. After all, excitement and hope are part of the game. But it's important to remember, true luck isn't about winning millions. It's about getting home safe. So when someone says, "I'm pretty sure I'm going to win," you can reply, "The main thing is not to get into an accident on the way." Sometimes just living life is the biggest win. In the 1990s, artists Vitaly Komar and Alexander Melamede, along with composer Dave Soldier, set out to create the most terrible song in history. They aimed to produce a piece that would be as unbearable to listen to as possible. They gathered all the musical elements that people found annoying: a children's choir, operatic rap, banjos, synthesizers, and absurd lyrics about hypermarkets and Coca-Cola. The result was a 20-minute track that is truly difficult to listen to all the way through. The experiment proved that art has not only peaks of beauty, but also depths of discord, and there is a certain charm in that as well. Butterflies have taste receptors located right on their legs. When they land on a flower, they taste it with their feet. This helps them determine whether the plant is suitable for feeding or laying eggs. For us, taste involves our tongue and lips, while for butterflies it's a light touch of their legs. So every landing is like a tasting session for them. It's amusing to think that if humans had the same ability, we would taste soup just by touching our fingers to the bowl. But for butterflies, it works perfectly. Today, humanity has explored only 1 to 5% of the ocean. Everything else remains in the dark depths, where humans have rarely ventured. Unknown species, entire ecosystems, and even new sources of energy may be hidden there. Imagine, we know more about the moon than about the ocean floor. This paradox astonishes scientists and fuels the imagination. What lies beneath? Giant creatures, underwater cities, or just darkness? Each new descent of exploration devices reveals a piece of this mystery. It turns out that the ocean is the last great enigma on Earth. If you take a standard deck of 52 cards and shuffle it well, you can't even imagine what you're holding in your hands. The number of possible combinations is so vast that it can be expressed with 60 zeros. Imagine shuffling the cards, and almost certainly you get a unique order that has never existed in human history and will never exist again. Each time, it's like creating a new universe right on the table. Playing cards after this feels like real magic. A simple game transforms into a journey through infinite possibilities. Even a regular game of Durack or poker suddenly gains special significance, as in your hands a unique combination is born that will vanish forever the moment you gather the cards back. Who would have thought that in London, where rain is more common than sunshine, there's a real underground beach? In an old subway tunnel, an unusual space has been created: sand, palm trees and lighting that mimics sunset. Parties and concerts take place there, and stepping inside feels like entering a parallel reality. Above you, trains rumble by, while people sip cocktails on the shore of an underground sea. This place is like a little secret of the city. No one expects to find a beach beneath the asphalt of a metropolis. The irony is that for Londoners, it's easier to dive into the tunnel than to travel to the sea. On Venus, there is an optical phenomenon similar to a rainbow, but it's called a glory. Instead of raindrops, tiny particles of sulfuric acid in the planet's dense atmosphere create it. As a result, bright-coloured circles appear in the sky, resembling a glowing halo. Imagine not the familiar arc above the rain, but a true cosmic aura. This shows that even on other planets, nature puts on its own light and colour shows, albeit with different ingredients. And even though Venus is distant and harsh, it can also be beautiful. Camels are the champions of the desert. They can drink up to 130 litres of water in just 13 minutes. It's like a person draining an entire bathtub in one go. Their bodies are designed to retain moisture. Their blood and tissues are adapted to withstand dehydration, and they hardly sweat at all. Because of this, camels survive where other animals wouldn't last a day. It's no wonder they are called ships of the desert. They carry loads and people across the scorching sands like enormous living water tanks. Sometimes science plays with coincidences. The same equation is discovered by two different scientists. The Lorentz-Lorentz equation got its name for a reason. It was derived independently by two researchers, the Danish scientist Ludwig Lorentz and the Dutch scientist Hendrik Lorentz. The difference was nearly 10 years, and they were unaware of each other's work. In the end, both published almost the same discovery. Science sometimes has such quirks. People in different countries working on similar problems arrive at the same results. This shows that discoveries are not random. They hang in the air, waiting to be noticed. Yes, there are sharks that can walk. These are small epaulette sharks that live on coral reefs. They use their fins like legs, moving them to shuffle along the sea floor. This ability helps them search for food in places where swimming is difficult, like shallow lagoons. It looks unusual, as if a little shark decided to try on a lizard's outfit. Scientists believe this is an example of unique adaptation. Nature has seemingly given this predator new tools for survival. The walking shark is yet another reminder that the ocean holds countless wonders we are not even aware of. Only humans can blush. This phenomenon is linked to the expansion of blood vessels in the face during emotions like shame, excitement, or love. You've probably caught yourself feeling your cheeks betray you after an awkward comment or an unexpected compliment. It's amusing, but no dog, cat, or even intelligent monkey can blush. There's something very human about this. We not only think and speak, but we also wear our emotions right on our faces, like a living mood indicator. Norway is home to the longest road tunnel in the world, the Lærdal Tunnel, which stretches over 24 kilometres. What's remarkable is that in spring it transforms not only into a roadway for cars, but also into a path for goats. Local farmers drive their herds through it to reach pastures, and this has become quite a tradition. Imagine walking through a tunnel usually filled with speeding cars, while goats calmly stroll around you. For the animals, it's safer than climbing mountain trails, and for tourists, it's a true spectacle that blends modern engineering with rural life. Norwegians have found an original way to combine technology and nature. Even wild wolves know how to wag their tails. and they do it with a specific meaning. We are used to dogs expressing joy and friendliness this way, but their wild ancestors, the wolves, do the same thing, albeit with a different significance. Young wolves wag their tails in front of older ones, showing respect and submission. Sometimes the tail helps to ease a tense situation. It's a way of saying, "I'm not a threat, I acknowledge your authority." Thus, this gesture in dogs is not a coincidence, but an ancient legacy. It's amusing to think that when you play with your dog's tail, you are witnessing an echo of the behaviour of its distant ancestors who lived in forests and packs. Tokyo Tower is very similar to the Eiffel Tower, but it's painted in orange and white. The most interesting part is that it weighs almost half as much. This is due to the new generation steel used in its construction in the 1950s. The lightweight yet strong metal allowed for the creation of a massive structure without unnecessary heaviness. It turned out to be an acrobatic building, tall, stable, and yet slim. The tower became a symbol of Japan's recovery after the war, and its silhouette still adorns Tokyo. It serves as a reminder that technology can be both powerful and elegant. The cougar is a cat that seems to have checked off almost every location on the map. You can find it in the mountains of Canada, the deserts of Chile, the forests of the United States, and even on the outskirts of cities. It adapts to any conditions, from snow to heat. No wonder it's called the cat with 1,000 addresses. Unlike many large predators, the cougar is not afraid of human proximity and sometimes appears near settlements. Yet it remains elusive and cautious. It's an incredible example of survival. Where tigers and lions are confined to specific territories, the cougar roams freely across an entire continent. In the United States, sheriffs are not appointed officials, but elected positions. Unlike many countries where police chiefs are appointed by the state, in America, residents of the county elect their sheriff. The term can range from 2 to 6 years, and it is the people who decide whom to trust with maintaining order. The sheriff leads their department, hires deputies, and operates independently from the FBI or police. Today, there are about 3,500 sheriff's offices in the US, ranging from small ones with 2 people to large ones with thousands of employees. Thus, a sheriff is both a law enforcement officer and a politician who must earn the trust of their community. Have you ever wondered what dinosaurs actually sounded like? In the famous Jurassic Park, the monsters sound so terrifying that it sends chills down your spine. But the sound designers didn't find recordings of prehistoric reptiles. No one has ever heard them. Instead, they combined the most unexpected sounds, like the moans of mating turtles. These became the foundation for the fearsome roars on screen. It's amusing to imagine viewers holding their breath, believing in the terrifying roar of the T-Rex, while in the studio, sound engineers are stifling laughter, knowing that the king of the lizards sounds suspiciously romantic. When we see an iceberg, it appears to be a massive chunk of ice proudly floating in the ocean. But the most treacherous part is that 90% of its mass is hidden beneath the surface. This means we only see a small tip, while the bulk remains concealed in the depths. This is why icebergs are so dangerous for ships. The underwater portion can be many times larger than what is visible. It's no wonder the Titanic collided with such a massive block, completely unaware of its scale. An iceberg is like an iceberg of problems. What's on the surface is just a small part. The water keeps its secrets deep, and they can be fatal for those who underestimate the danger. Sharks have no bones. Their skeletons are entirely made of cartilage. This makes their bodies light and flexible, like a spring. Sharks can turn sharply and dart towards their prey with lightning speed, like a perfectly oiled machine. This also allows them to grow throughout their lives. Some species can reach lengths of up to 12 meters. Imagine a fish the size of a bus, yet so agile that it can easily maneuver around any obstacles. The secret to its success lies in this paradox. No bones means no weight, only speed and freedom of movement. The space menu has long resembled a home-cooked one, featuring borscht and cutlets instead of just tubes. Today, meals in orbit are not much different from those on Earth. Astronauts eat borscht, cutlets and porridge, all in special packaging. Soups are heated and consumed through a straw, while solid dishes are eaten with a spoon. The main difference is that food can float away, so everything is secured with Velcro and served carefully. Many are surprised to find that lunch in space is not a futuristic powder, but rather a familiar home menu. This way, an astronaut can feel almost at home during their meal. Today, the pyramids of Giza appear grey and austere, but in ancient times they looked quite different. They were covered with smooth, white limestone slabs that reflected sunlight and shone like giant mirrors in the desert. The peaks of some pyramids were adorned with golden caps, pyramidions, that sparkled especially brightly. Imagine how it must have looked, white mountains with golden tops under the blazing sun. Modern tourists see only the stone cores, but once these were the most dazzling structures on Earth, symbols of the wealth and power of the pharaohs. Even now, thousands of years later, they still captivate the imagination. The myxomatosis virus nearly wiped out rabbits in Europe within a few years. French microbiologist Armand Delille tried to control the rabbit population on his estate by infecting them with the myxomatosis virus. However, the disease spiraled out of control. In just a few years, the virus spread across Europe and killed 98% of the rabbits. The culprit was fined, but the damage was done. An entire species was on the brink of extinction. Fortunately, rabbits proved to be resilient and gradually recovered their numbers. This case became one of the most striking examples of how human intervention can lead to ecological disaster. Egypt can confidently be called the oldest state in the world. Its history spans over 5,000 years, beginning with the unification of Upper and Lower Kingdoms. The pyramids, temples, and the mysterious Nile are not just beautiful images, but symbols of a civilization that laid the foundation for many cultures. Imagine, while Europe was still unaware of writing, the Egyptians were already constructing majestic tombs and writing in hieroglyphs. And even though thousands of years have passed, Egypt still holds secrets that scholars are unraveling, like the pages of the oldest book in the world. It's hard to believe, but guilt can arise even from happiness. In psychology, this is referred to as survivor's guilt. This state is often experienced by those who have survived a tragedy or by those who are doing well while their loved ones are suffering. Joy can feel like a betrayal. A person may begin to feel internal discomfort because they have what others lack: health, a job, a family. It's paradoxical, as happiness should bring joy, yet sometimes it becomes a burden. This phenomenon reminds us that emotions do not always adhere to logic. In the 19th century, watermelon became not only a delicacy, but also a secret ingredient for juices. Watermelons were used not just as a standalone fruit, but also as a base for vitamin blends. They were added to juices to balance the flavour. Watermelon made the drink smoother and more pleasant, reducing the excess acidity and bitterness of other fruits. Imagine a glass of orange juice that's too sour to drink without grimacing. Add a bit of watermelon and the taste becomes refreshing and harmonious. This technique is still used in cooking today, and it was once a true discovery. The term Black Panther sounds mysterious, as if it refers to a distinct species. In reality, it simply describes the coloration of leopards or jaguars. Some individuals exhibit melanism, an excess of dark pigment. Their fur becomes almost black, with spots only visible in sunlight. These animals make up about 11% of all leopards, In the jungle they move like shadows, blending into the darkness. This rare coloration has turned them into legends and heroes of myths. So, a panther isn't a new species, it's just a stylish, same leopard, but in a black suit. Nature sometimes plays with fashion too. Human hearing is limited to frequencies ranging from about 20 to 20,000 Hz. Anything below is infrasound, and anything above is ultrasound. We can't hear them, but animals can. Dogs respond to whistles that sound like silence to us, while dolphins communicate using frequencies beyond our hearing range. This means that the world around us is much richer in sounds than we can perceive. It's as if we're listening to a radio on one frequency, while there are dozens of stations. This serves as a reminder that our senses are just a small filter of reality. Regular sand can be transformed into transparent glass when heated to around 1,700 degrees. At such high temperatures, it melts and becomes a liquid mass, which solidifies into a strong and clear material upon cooling. Imagine how ordinary beach sand gives rise to windows, glasses, or stained glass in cathedrals. This was known to the ancient Egyptians, who were the first to create glass ornaments. It's remarkable that from the simplest grains we walk on barefoot, fragile beauty can be crafted that adorns homes and cities for centuries. Iceland is one of the few places on Earth without mosquitoes. The climate here is such that insects can't complete their life cycle. It's too cold in winter and the temperature changes too rapidly in summer. For tourists, it's a paradise. You can stroll through forests and by lakes without the annoying buzzing. The locals joke that this is one of their country's main advantages. Imagine summer, a campfire, a tent, and not a single mosquito bite. For us, it sounds like a dream, but for Icelanders, it's just a way of life. In Madagascar, baobabs grow, captivating not only with their appearance, but also with their remarkable ability. Their roots can move in search of moisture. Of course, the tree itself doesn't walk, but its root system gradually extends in the necessary direction, creating the illusion that the baobab is shifting across the ground. This adaptation helps it survive in drought conditions. For the locals, the baobab is a sacred tree, a symbol of strength and longevity. Its fruits and leaves are used for food and medicine, while the trunk can serve as a home or a water reservoir. The baobab stands as a guardian of the island, capable of finding a way even where hope seems lost. Chinese woman Shi Kuping became famous for not cutting her hair for over 40 years. She started growing it at the age of 13 and reached a length of 5.62 meters. That's almost 18 feet. Just imagine how much time it takes to care for such a braid. Brushing alone takes a couple of hours, and washing is a whole ritual. Sometimes she braids her hair or wraps it around herself to make it easier to move. Her record is listed in the Guinness Book of Records, and so far no one has broken it. It's reminiscent of the tale of Rapunzel, but in real life, where determination and patience become a true legend. When you look at a chicken, it's hard to believe that you're staring at a distant relative of the fearsome Tyrannosaurus rex. But that's what science claims. Bird DNA shares common traits with ancient predators. Scientists even refer to the chicken as a living reminder of dinosaurs. It turns out that millions of years ago, terrifying giants ruled the planet, and today their descendants run around backyards and lay eggs. It's amusing how nature has changed the role of these creatures, from kings to simple inhabitants of rural homesteads. And now, when you see a chicken, you might think, here it is, a small shadow of the great T-Rex, stepping into modernity. In 2001, the residents of the Indian state of Kerala were stunned. Red rain was falling from the sky. The droplets left crimson puddles, as if after a mystical sign. People thought of the apocalypse or the blood of gods. Scientists, however, discovered that particles of sand and spores from microscopic algae had entered the atmosphere, colouring the rain. This phenomenon lasted for several weeks, and each day felt like a scene from a science fiction movie. For the locals, this event remains one of the most mysterious memories, told to children as a miracle that happened in their land. The chicken is a bird, but there's nothing eagle-like about its flight. The longest flight ever recorded lasted just 13 seconds. For comparison, that's less time than it takes to count to 15. The reason is simple. A chicken's body is heavy, and its wing muscles are not developed enough for long flights. However, these short bursts allow chickens to jump over fences or fly up into trees to escape danger. So, a chicken flies just enough to survive, and while its flights may not be impressive, it remains a unique bird in its own right, an ancestor of dinosaurs and a staple of the farmyard. Today, over 4,000 active satellites orbit our planet. They provide us with navigation, communication, weather forecasting, and even climate monitoring. However, as the number of satellites increases each year, scientists are increasingly discussing the problem of space debris. The more technology there is in orbit, the higher the risk of collisions. Imagine a vast network of thousands of lights above us that we can't see, yet they make our lives more convenient every day. Every phone or car contains a small part of their work. Space has long ceased to be empty. It has become a busy highway with continuous traffic. Rabbits are cute and fluffy, but they have an interesting feature. Their bodies are designed in such a way that they cannot vomit. Food moves through their system in only one direction, which helps them avoid unnecessary energy loss. On one hand, this is a plus. Rabbits don't suffer from nausea. On the other hand, it's a downside. If they eat something harmful, they can't get rid of it. That's why the owners of these domestic little ears always monitor their diet. It's amusing that such delicate animals have a system that is more rigid than that of many predators. The giant squid has eyes nearly the size of a basketball, about 25 centimetres in diameter. These enormous headlights are essential for its survival in the depths where eternal darkness reigns. With its eyes, the squid can detect even the faintest light, like the flash of a bioluminescent fish or the approach of a sperm whale. Imagine an underwater world where nothing is visible, and suddenly a massive eye spots the slightest glimmer. It may sound eerie to us, but for the squid, such eyes are a guarantee of life. In a world without light, it becomes a true master of night vision. In Switzerland, animal welfare is taken to the level of laws. You can't keep a single guinea pig alone, only in pairs or groups. This is because these little creatures are very social and quickly become sad and even ill without company. Imagine buying one guinea pig and you could face a fine as the state considers loneliness to be real suffering for them. On the bright side, owners know that their pets live in small groups where they can always interact, sleep together, or share a carrot. This law demonstrates that animals are not toys, but living beings with feelings, and they deserve to be treated with humanity. The blue whale is the largest animal on the planet. Its heart can be compared to a small car. The arteries are so wide that theoretically a person could fit inside them. Each beat of this giant engine pumps tons of blood through its body, sustaining a creature that weighs hundreds of tons. Imagine what such a heart would sound like up close. A rumble comparable to the bass at a rock concert, and it works continuously for decades. We often talk about the heart as a symbol of strength and love, and for the whale, it is literally the largest on Earth. Some bridges are capable of producing sounds when people walk on them. For example, in London, there is the Millennium Bridge, which features special plates that create a voice effect. The sounds resemble whispers or soft footsteps, and at night, the bridge transforms into an almost mystical place. Tourists love this effect. As they stroll, they become part of a unique concert. There's a feeling that the city itself has a voice, which it reveals only to attentive listeners. These bridges are an example of how architecture can be not only functional, but also emotional, turning an ordinary crossing over a river into a memorable experience. Today, OK is heard everywhere, from chats to serious negotiations. But few know that this word originated from a joke in a Boston newspaper in 1839. In an article, they intentionally wrote "all correct" incorrectly, resulting in "all correct." People liked the abbreviation, and soon OK became widely used, first in America, then around the world. Now it's a universal sign of agreement, understood in almost every country. It's amusing that a newspaper pun turned into the most recognisable word on the planet. The next time you write OK to a friend, remember, it's not just a response, but a little historical joke. Did you know that scientists experimented with inverted glasses? In the 1890s, psychologist George Stratton gave volunteers special glasses that turned the image upside down. In the first few days, people stumbled, struggled to eat or write, but gradually the brain adapted. After a week, they were seeing the world correctly again. And when they took off the glasses, everything around them seemed inverted once more. This experiment proved that perception is not fixed. The brain can reshape our view of the world. It turns out we see reality not with our eyes, but with our minds, which learn to interpret it. When you hear the word bison, it sounds like a joke. But no, bison are a real hybrid of cattle and buffalo. These animals combine the strength and endurance of wild bison with the hardiness of domestic cows. They were specifically bred in the US to create a robust and resilient livestock capable of thriving in harsh conditions. As a result, bison have become true stars of agriculture. They adapt well and produce delicious meat. Imagine encountering a creature in the field that looks both familiar and exotic, as if two worlds have merged into one body. Nature and humans sometimes create unusual alliances, and bison are a striking example of how an experiment can lead to an extraordinary animal. We tend to think of the world as having three kingdoms: animals, plants, and fungi. Most often, we classify fungi as plants, but the truth is, they are much closer to animals. They share a common ancestor with us that dates back over 1 billion years. Unlike plants, fungi cannot photosynthesize. They obtain nutrients by decomposing organic matter. Essentially, they eat like animals. So, a champignon or a honey mushroom is not just a little plant with a cap, but a distant relative of ours. Fungi are true recyclers of nature. They return nutrients to the soil, give life to new plants, and without them, ecosystems would simply collapse. Octopuses are remarkable creatures not only for their tentacles and intelligence, but also for how they care for their offspring. The female lays thousands of tiny eggs and then guards them for weeks, refusing to eat. All her energy goes into ensuring the hatchlings emerge safely. When this happens, the mother often dies from exhaustion. Such self-sacrifice is astonishing. She literally gives her life for the future generation. In the animal kingdom, such devotion is rare, so when observing an octopus, it's worth remembering that behind its cold exterior lies one of the most touching displays of maternal instinct. Robert Howard, the author of Conan and the Barbarian, was a friend and ally of H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft, the creator of the Cthulhu mythos, was a close friend of Robert Howard, the legendary creator of Conan. They corresponded, discussed their works, and inspired each other. When Howard took his own life at the age of 30, Lovecraft was deeply shaken and soon succumbed to illness and depression. Their friendship became a link between Lovecraft's dark cosmic horror and Howard's heroic fantasy. Thus, two completely different genres, horror and epic adventure, somehow emerged from a single, creative friendship. Sharks are eternal swimmers. They lack a swim bladder which keeps most fish at the right depth to avoid sinking and suffocating. they must keep moving all the time. Water flows through their gills, and that's the only way they get oxygen. Imagine having to walk your entire life with no right to sit down or lie down to sleep. For a shark, this is normal. Even in sleep, it continues to swim, moving slowly and calmly. So the ocean is for it both a bed and a road, a home all at once. A true marathon that lasts a lifetime. An ant is like a small truck with a two-chamber system. One stomach is for itself, to digest food and gain energy, while the other is for the colony. It stores food there to share with other ants through a special process called trophallaxis. This means ants literally feed each other mouth to mouth, functioning together as a single organism. If one finds a sweet treat, it not only carries it home, but also shares it so others know the way to the treasure. It's like if we could eat a pastry and immediately pass a piece to a friend straight from our stomach, along with the address of the nearest bakery. Some monkeys, like macaques, cannot stick out their tongues. Their muscle structure limits this movement. For us, sticking out our tongues is a childish prank or a way to tease a friend. But for them, it's impossible. Interestingly, macaques manage their food perfectly well. They crack hard fruits, process bark, and use their hands with remarkable precision. So the absence of a flexible tongue is compensated by their dexterous fingers. It's as if nature said, "All right, the tongue will be immobile, but I'll give you hands like a jeweler's." This makes their lives no less rich. They simply express themselves through actions rather than words. We often perceive the nose as just an ordinary organ of smell, but in reality, it is incredibly complex. It was once believed that humans could distinguish around 10,000 scents. Today, we know that our nose can detect up to 1 trillion different aromas. It's a whole universe of sensations, from the smell of fresh bread to the subtle notes of smoke or gas that can warn us of danger. Think about it. The nose helps you recall childhood memories through the aroma of grandma's pies, or feel the excitement of spring through the scent of damp earth. We tend to consider sight as the primary sense, but the nose is a true superhero, working quietly and unnoticed, saving us from mistakes every day and filling our lives with memories. In the Atlantic Ocean lies Tristan da Cunha, the most remote inhabited place on the planet. The nearest mainland is nearly 2,500 kilometres away, and only about 260 people live there. The only way to reach the island is by ship, taking 6 days from South Africa. There are no airports, shopping centres or hotels, and almost all the residents are descendants of sailors and settlers. Life here seems to be stuck in another time. People live in a community, grow their own food, and know each other by name. For a tourist, it's a unique experience to find oneself in a world where civilization is left behind the horizon. Sometimes pirates went to sea not for gold, but for hats. In the 17th century, English pirate Benjamin Hornier Gold once stopped a merchant ship, but he wasn't interested in gold or spices. He and his crew had overindulged the night before and thrown their hats overboard. So Hornigold demanded only new headgear from the crew. It's a funny situation. Imagine how terrified the merchants were, expecting a raid only to be told, "We just need hats." Even fearsome pirates found themselves in silly, everyday stories. In the town of Talkeetna, Alaska, they've come up with a tourist attraction. A trained bear delivers the mail. Of course, he doesn't go door to door, but participates in a show, carrying baskets filled with letters inside the post office. Tourists love the idea of sending a postcard with a bear stamp. It's a unique keepsake. The locals have turned this into an attraction, and now the bear postman has become a true symbol of the town. It sounds almost like a fairy tale, but it's actually a real way to attract visitors and make ordinary mail a local landmark. Polar bears appear to be snowy creatures, as if sculpted from ice. However, if you push aside their thick fur, you'll find that their skin is not white, but black. This colour helps the animals absorb solar heat more effectively and retain it in harsh Arctic conditions. Thus, the white fur serves as camouflage, while the bear's true clothing acts as a heater. This dual mechanism allows them to survive in temperatures that drop below -40. So, the polar bear is not just a fluffy giant, but a true engineering marvel of nature, where everything is meticulously designed. In Rome, a pizza over 40 metres in diameter was once baked. It was named Ottavia, in honour of the Roman emperor. The weight of this culinary monster exceeded 23 tonnes. Special ovens and a team of pizzaiolos worked for several days to prepare it. Imagine a square where instead of asphalt, there's a giant crust topped with tomato sauce and cheese. This pizza could feed an entire city. Interestingly, it was completely gluten-free, ensuring that the record not only amazed, but also catered to those with dietary restrictions. A true gastronomic spectacle for all of Italy. The paradox is that nuclear energy is considered safer than conventional coal and gas. Many people associate nuclear power with accidents and radiation danger, recalling Chernobyl or Fukushima, and that ends the discussion. However, statistics tell a different story. When comparing the number of victims and illnesses caused by various energy sources, coal and gas prove to be far more dangerous. Hundreds of thousands suffer from lung diseases due to emissions from power plants, while the climate takes a severe hit. In contrast, nuclear plants generate energy with almost no carbon emissions, and accidents are extremely rare. Thus we have a paradox. The frightening word nuclear instills fear, even though in reality it saves lives. The snail may seem slow and harmless, but it has a whole arsenal in its mouth. Thousands of tiny teeth located on a special organ called the radula. With this rasp-like ribbon, the snail scrapes its food, leaves, bark, even stones covered in algae. The teeth are so small that they can only be seen under a microscope, but they make the snail a true connoisseur of nature. Imagine having a mini-saw in your mouth that works non-stop. It sounds funny, but this is what helps it survive in various conditions. Typically, twins are born just minutes apart, at most a few hours. However, there was a unique case in history where there was an 87-day gap between the births of two sisters. The first girl was born prematurely, and doctors managed to prolong the pregnancy until the second one was strong enough. As a result, their birthdays fell in different months and even different seasons. Imagine how the parents felt. 2 celebrations instead of 1, and a record that made it into the books. This case demonstrates that medicine and human patience can work wonders, and life sometimes writes scripts that are hard to imagine. It may seem like ordinary things, but if you take a closer look, they hold the most unexpected stories. If you enjoyed this journey through the world of curiosities, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. There's even more to come that textbooks have kept silent about.